Welcome to Voices from the Field podcast presented by Extra Innings Softball, where the stories are real, the conversations are honest, and the game goes way beyond the field. We're bringing you insight, inspiration, and all things softball from the people shaping the sport.
Hello, Extra Innings Softball, Voices from the Field. This is your podcast, and you are in for a treat today. We are joined by a Mr. Chad O'Neill, all the way from the great state of Georgia. I believe he lives in Decatur. We won't say Atlanta, but he's from the Peach State. He currently coaches with the Georgia Impact, has been with them for 7 years, but he's coached for 17. So the amount of wisdom that we're going to pick up and the changes and just the discussion as two old softball coaches sitting on the couch, having a conversation. I'm pretty excited to talk to you. I know the Georgia Impact, you told me, has been around for well over 20 years, and you've been with them for the last 7. So welcome, Mr. Chad, and I'm super excited to kind of dive into what we're here to talk about. So tell us a little bit about Georgia Impact and yourself and just where you're at and what you're doing.
Well, for the past 3 years, I've been the president of the organization.
Okay.
We're going through some transition and some reorg here, and actually my role is changing a little bit. I'm taking a little step back from the running of the club and focusing, because I have a 27-28 team, so I'm going to kind of take a step back and concentrate on my team exclusively. I'm sure, I'll still be in the background doing a lot of things, but as far as the face of the club, I'm probably going to step back from that this season.
Okay.
But for the last 3 years, that's been my role with the club.
Awesome. So you've done a lot more of overseeing of all of it is what you've
Yes.
been doing, and coaching your team. Yes. Well, that 27-28. So that just leads me into the perfect segue into our podcast. What's the most important advice that you give to your players of 27s and 28s? Obviously 27s, the big September 1 is coming, and that 28 class is just beginning their true recruiting journey. What's some of the best advice that you give to your players that could help some of our other audience?
I think that, I guess my first thought on that is start early. I am kind of surprised even now that I have 27s that I see have not done a lot of preparation or preliminary effort into recruiting, and they're good players, but they haven't built an inventory of items. So I think example would be, we started with this team I have now. We started in 12U sending emails. Now we realized that there was no value in that as far as exterior. They weren't looking at 12U emails, but what it did is started to build a foundation of habits that they can carry forward. So when it really did matter, they were ready for it. They were used to it. It was already a habit. So I think it's critical that you get them in that mindset that, that this is important and this is part of your journey and part of your recruiting.
Yes.
When it's appropriate, and that depends on the parent and everybody else, the social media aspect of recruiting is probably the primary source, other than on-field visual, validation. Your social media is critical to your recruiting success. And Extra Innings probably realizes that more than anybody, because I'm sure that's what you guys utilize a lot to validate kids and see what they're up to. So.
Absolutely. And I think that's really cool. And it's a great way for, I guess, for me to give little plugs for Extra Innings Softball. We do use that social media. And I think the thing that you're talking about is it's them networking and advertising. And really what we've really tried to do here at Extra Innings Softball for the ranking committee is attach ourselves to the org leaders like yourself and to the coaches, and really depend on a lot of good networking, because the bottom line, in order to be perfect at ranking, and you can't be, because the NC2A hasn't even got All-Americans completely right, because there's 1,000 that could be different places, but is to get as many eyes on these young women as possible. And so in expanding that recruiting, that social media opens up to different things, and then it allows you to make early connections so that you can choose where you go to camps and where you go and play and get some of those things. So I love that. When you're instructing that, what is your advice to players and parents regarding the social media? Do you guide your Georgia Impact players in a certain way on how to? Is there good and bad? What do you think, and what is your input with them?
Well, we're fortunate with the Georgia Impact, and frankly, my team, because her daughter plays on my team. We have a marketing genius, I will call her, that has helped us put together kind of guidelines and do's and don'ts for social media and marketing. So she's been very instrumental in what we currently do. But as a whole, I think one of the things we always advise them, keep it specific to the sport yourself. Don't repost 50 other kids stuff because they're friends of yours, because really what you're trying to achieve is some concise, very impactful, representation of yourself. You're not trying to muddy the waters with five other players that are friends of yours, because when a coach looks at that, they don't want to see all that. So we just try to. It's almost like less is more in this case.
Yeah,
And I don't think a lot of kids in this generational space that they're in, they're experts in it, but they're experts in oh, more is better,
yes.
so we just, the biggest thing I try to do is minimize the outside stuff and stick to what's important to you and how you want to be represented in front of a bunch of people. So,
I love that you have a marketing person involved, because that's somebody that is good at what you're trying to do, which athletes and coaches aren't always necessarily great at, because they do think more is better. 12 reps instead of 10 is better. Well, no, not necessarily. It's the other way around.
yeah.
And I guess my golden nugget I always share with people when they bring things up like this is, I coached at that well, it wasn't power 4 then, it was probably power 8 back then, but the power 4 level over 16 to 20 years. And I always was amazed. And I always told people, like, make the video that you send, don't make it just game footage, make it very specific to just what you're doing. Because I can tell you honestly, a lot of times people sent me footage and they're marketing themselves. And I saw somebody else on that video that I want to go watch that one. That's the one I want to go do, because they showed them making the play. So
Right.
I think that's such great advice. Are there any golden nuggets or do you, with your team's parents, do you sit down, and when do you sit down? Like, obviously you said you started at 12 with your young ones, that you say, hey, parents, because if I feel like there's a group of people, I don't want to say ignored, but is kind of left off that educational reservation by a lot of organizations and just in general. Now, the parents can go online and educate themselves, but are there things that you sit down with your parents and say, hey, guys, this is what we need from you to help us to help your children?
Well, yeah, and we even now, I have a meeting scheduled Sunday with my team. I do meetings with individual teams in the club, to kind of do similar to what we're doing here.
Right.
But I think, again, early is better. So when you talk to 12U parents and you're telling them that your schedule includes California and all of these places all around the country, and you explain to them the path that you're on, they're very, uninformed. They can't believe this. They're like, why are we doing this? So in a lot of cases, your reputation and your background helps the trust factor become more important, and they trust you because they know what you've done in the past. But it's very important that you tell them what their journey looks like, what's in store for them, so they're not surprised by it. And unfortunately, you lose some along the way, but you gain some. So, in the path of playing nationally is not the only way to get into college.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's you can play regionally and have just as much success, but you just need to be clear as a coach and the players on your team that this is the path we're on, whichever one it is. Just make sure they're clear on the direction that the team's going in, and all of the other surrounding factors that apply to recruiting. They apply no matter which path you're on. What
Absolutely.
email, social media, all of it applies the same.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that. I was having a conversation with Jazz of Impact Gold out of Texas. And when we were talking, she was like, the first thing that I want to say before I even answer any of the questions that I'm saying, like right now with you, is that parents need to take true control of the direction and the road that you want to be on with your daughter, because there are so many different avenues and there's not just one way to peel an onion to get to what and where you want. And I think sometimes you talk to a 12-year-old, you can't say, hey, where are you thinking you want to go to school? They don't have a clue. Oh, I want to go to my elementary, go out in the recess playground. But if you start as a parent, the number one thing that she said that I thought was so brilliant and so true is that as parents is you've got to sit down and say, what can we financially afford?
Yes.
Can we
Yes.
financially afford? Because I don't know about you, but my daughter just committed to Arkansas and I've been doing this and I've coached at that level and have a kid that's played at that level. It's no cheap feat to be able to play at that national level. Like your daughter, and I tell my daughter, and it's funny you say 12 because at 12U, I was coaching one of the Thunderbolt teams and she was playing on it. And, I was always kept teasing her, like, let me just buy you some golf clubs. I think you should be a golfer. Like, let's play golf, because I could sit in the clubhouse as your mom and ask you how your day was. And you get cute outfits and you'll meet a real rich doctor and all these kind of things that I was trying to do. And, but I was coaching college at the time. So she was always on the field and doing all that kind of stuff. And I literally at 12, it was her third year with the Bolts and I was coaching. And I found all of a sudden that I was, hey, let's go hit. Hey, let's go do this. I was having to ask her. And I looked at my husband and I think we had a month left in the season. I'm like, at the end of this season, we need to sit down and have a really serious conversation as a family with her, because we're investing. I never like to hear the word sacrifice because I'm not giving anything up when my daughter's energy matches our investment. That's my job. I love it. But when I'm investing and I'm having to say, hey, let's go do this. Hey, let's go do this. Okay, now it's becoming a sacrifice for me. I'd rather go get my toes done. I'd rather go get my hair done. I'd rather go do the things that I am sacrificing to invest in my daughter's life. And so I remember very vividly sitting with her at 12 saying, okay, kid, here's the deal. You're great at what you're doing. And I'm going to tell you, I've done this for a long time. You could be something special. But this life does not have to be your life, because I don't want softball to be yours because it's mine. This has to be something you want. But if you want your dad and I to invest in you in this at this national level, there's going to have to be a level of commitment from you. And it's going to have to be your passion and your fire, because I don't care what you do, but whatever you do, you're going to do it with 100% if we're going to invest in you as a family. And so I said, for the next 2 weeks, you're not touching a softball. I'm like, and at the end of those 2 weeks, we're going to sit down and you can say, I love softball and I want to play it more regionally and more socially and just really enjoy it. Or I'm going all in because, dang, I think I could be really great at this.
Mhm.
That there's going to be some heartaches, but we're going to go. And I'm like, done are the days that I'm asking you to go hit. Done are the days that I'm asking you to go put extra stuff. Done on the day am I going to say, go lift. This is going to be on you. And so I remember at the end of that first week, she said, hey, can we go hit? I said, nope, can't. 2 weeks, we're not doing anything with softball. And she get like every day, mom, I'm like, no. I said, at the end of the 2 weeks, I could sit down. Where, yeah, she's like, I want to do this. I want to go all in. I'm like, okay, we will sit down at the end of every year and we will reevaluate as a family. Is your energy and effort matching our investment? And as long as it is, we're all in. Honey, I'll go work the corners. I'll go pick up cans for you to do it, but it's got to be yours. And now that she's committed to Arkansas, she'll sign in November. I turned and looked at her and I said, my body hurts so bad as an old mother to you that I kind of am thinking, was it really worth doing this? Because I don't know if I can throw another round of BP to you. And she started laughing and she goes, well, not only do I appreciate the financial, she goes, I know what the physical sacrifice has been too, but I love that you start early. And I love that you acknowledge as a national organization, one of the top 30 in the country, to say that that yours is not necessarily for everybody, but your advice in the recruiting is like, so find what pond you want to swim in and find the right match so that you do get the best, but take the recruiting advice that you've given to match what you're doing.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things. We did a survey recently within the club, and 75% of the people that could respond to this did not go to the first school, their number one school. 30% did, 70%, Out of the 700 that we've had recruited since 2009, if you really looked at the percentages, the majority of those are mid-majors or below. The 10, 15% of highly recognized players get all the notoriety. But I think most clubs in this space, whether where you have national and local and regional teams, you look at the numbers and the highest percentage is going to be somewhere less than the Power Four level. That's just statistically. So that means that regionally playing as opposed to national, it can be more successful and more likely to happen if you look at just the numbers. And one other point I wanted to bring up about parental advice and things related to that. And the coach's responsibility. Um, what I recommend they start early with is being very aware of the intangibles, because they're going to get specialized training. They're going to get high level coaching. They're going to get 80 games a year, however many practices. The coach's job becomes less about development on the field and preparation. That's important, very important. But whoever is guiding that other part, it's very important that they focus on the intangibles. Are they good teammates? Do they, what the optics are they great in the dugout? Which at the level that you get to when you're being recruited, they're watching them play because they're good players. But what separates your child going to Arkansas and the kid that she was competing with? Well, it's probably more about all of the intangibles. How does she look on the field? Does she hustle? Is she picking her teammates up? Is she the first one out of the dugout to greet her teammate when she does something well, when she does something bad, when she's 0 for 3? What's her behavior like? All of those factors are
it factor. It's
the it factor. Exactly. Are you fun to watch? Because when you go to a showcase and you watch kids hit doubles and home runs all weekend, they all look the same.
Absolutely.
You get a nugget here, a nugget there. Somebody makes a great defensive play. But when you're put yourself in the position of recruiting these kids, how do you differentiate from, the 12 kids you really like that all can hit or all can play defense? Well, it's the one that's fun to watch, that you think that's somebody I want in my program. So I don't think you can start early enough on that.
Yeah. And I think what you say is so true, because if you watch and where our sport has gone, and we're getting ready to kind of go into where the game is now. If you look at the Power Fours and the Elite, they're on television. It's a business. It is now officially a business. There is the almighty dollar. And some people can go, oh, yuck, that's terrible. I tend to think it's awesome. I love to see how far the game's come, to see that women are actually starting to get recognized as something that people want to watch. I love that the Women College World Series for the last 2 years has outdrawn the men's college series. I mean, there's so many things to me that are exciting about it. But the one thing that I've always harped with the kids I've coached is you are a product. That might not sound right to you, but you are a product. What are you going to do to put people's butts in the stands? Whether I was coaching high school or junior college or Division II or the Power Four, the bottom line is the more butts in the stands, the more you get on the field to enhance and develop your game, and the more fun it is to play. It's more fun to play in a crowded stadium where people are roaring when you do something great or booing when you do something great based on where you're at. But it's all about that putting people in and selling it and being tangible. The one thing that I love about female athletics, specifically softball, is I think our athletes are producing a product now on the field that a lot of people like to watch better than baseball, because it's faster paced. There's more going on. But they're also tangible. These, Brie Ellis is standing on the sideline warming up her bat, and there's people 3 feet away that say, "Hey, Brie," and she turns around and says, "Hey," they're tangible. And those are the things that everybody that wants to support, as well as that energy on the field. What are you doing? What do you have? What is the it that everybody wants to go, why is she so special? And what is it that I can be like? I love that.
In this game, and a lot of us, myself included, were baseball coaches at some point. And literally it took one weekend of softball to realize I'm in. Like this, it's such a faster pace. more action, more activity. Um, I was hooked from the very first weekend, and if I had to go back and coach a baseball game right now, I would probably fall asleep in the dugout.
That's what's so funny. Someone said to me, "Do you watch baseball?" I said, "Only when it's a social event that we go to that I want to have a hot dog and a beer because I can go stand in line and get it and I've missed nothing." You do
That's
that
right.
in softball, you've missed the entire game,
Yeah,
you
you
know?
did. You come
I
back and there's 4 runs scored while you were in the bathroom, right?
absolutely, like, I never hold myself from going to the bathroom at a baseball game. I go, I don't worry about it. In a softball, I might be in the 4th inning going, I'm just gonna have to wait till the end of the game. I'm sitting here, I'm not leaving. Like, I'm not gonna miss this, you know? So
That's exactly right.
I
So
love
so
it.
so true. So very true.
Well, let me transition a little bit. It's kind of in the recruiting, but of how you've seen it affect your players, or maybe just your opinion on it with the transfer portal and the NIL. What has been some of the trickle down effect that you've seen within your organization from maybe recruiting in the portal, or your advice to your athletes on the NIL?
Well, the portal, I'll take that one first. The portal literally has pushed everything down. And what I mean by that is schools are recruiting the portal before they look at high school kids now. It's unfortunate for our high school kids, but um, they, unfortunate maybe not. And let me explain that. If I have a kid that's a marginal or borderline SEC kid or ACC kid, are they better off to go and come in on the tail end of that SEC offer and probably sit for a year or two and hope to get an opportunity? Are they better to go to maybe a mid major and play right away and get some statistics and some college tape and because that becomes more marketable than anything you did in travel ball or high school. If you perform at the college level and you have some results to prove it, then the school that you may have almost went to in the SEC, now all of a sudden you're that much more attractive. So I think previous to the portal, kids would take those borderline offers or those lower end offers just to say they're going to a Power Four school and would not look at a mid major. Well, now I think they look at these mid majors as stepping stones or opportunities.
Mhm.
And that may seem kind of one sided, but when you look at mid majors and club and teams like that, they're also getting the benefits for maybe 1 or 2 years, the players that they never would have got before. So I think everybody wins in that scenario.
Right.
It's unfortunate that, the portal is, or everybody has an opinion about how it affects their program. But again, I think overall, they are investing certainly in portal kids more than they are high school kids.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
Certainly there are programs out there that, and that's what my advice would be, is some are more portal, some are half and half, and some do. It just depends. And I think that's the research that players have to figure out when they are making those decisions, like you said. And I'm not going to reveal the names, but in all my travels this summer, there was several mid-major schools that I talked to, and some were just hated the portal and hated that they could come and steal it. But there was an interesting few, and if I can ever get them on to talk about it, that said, heck yeah, I'm going to go after those kids and get them, that are those kids that you're talking about. They could go to the SEC and be number 20 on the team, or they could come to my school and be 1 or 2 and let me develop them and get them where they could be. She's like, I'll help them go to the next level. She's like, that's okay. Like, I have to transition and adapt who I am if I want to stay in it and be um, important and really continue to have that. So I definitely see that. I think the part of the portal that I don't like is I almost feel like I would love it to be that, because the bottom line is I feel like I hate that there's teams like Power Four schools that would be playing mid majors, where the mid majors have to feel like in a season their kids are being recruited. I don't like
Yeah.
that part of it. You know what I mean? Like, I like it to be about the season at that part. But I almost would love to see there have to be some kind of a financial obligation from the Power Four to the mid major, because they did
That's a
just spend a year developing those kids. And if you do that, then you are helping those mid majors to be okay with you picking off their players, so to be, if that's how you want to label it, because then, if it's, maybe it's, I don't know, I'm throwing out a random, maybe it's $50,000 that if you want that, it gets tagged to that kid, you got to pay it. Then you've got that kid to go play for it. It's a little bit of way for that revenue sharing for the mid majors to get bigger and better facilities and all
I
those
like that.
so it's something that I've constantly talked about, but I was really interested because a lot were just mid majors were angry, but there started to be that emergence of like, heck yeah, I'm going after that kid, saying, look, I know you've got LSU, Arkansas, Georgia, Florida coming after you, but I'm telling you, you could be an immediate impact. You come and do what I think you can do. Let me help develop you and prepare you for that. Get that year, and then you can go and be an immediate impact as a sophomore for them or a junior for them, where you might not get any of that and you're still getting all those reps and all that playing time, and you're helping me in the process. And I thought, what a great way to embrace it,
Well, and I think there's a couple things to add to that. And one of them would be, so a Power Four school has previously would have 4 pitchers on their list. Like we're going after these 4 pitchers, and hopefully we get one of them. Well, now it's 2 pitchers on their list, because if they don't get 1 or 2, then they're going to the portal.
Mhm.
So 3 and 4 are no longer, they don't, their lists aren't that deep, because they're not going to take their 4th best option, in their opinion, when they can go to the portal and find somebody proven.
Right.
And I think the thing that is kind of lost in all of this is the 17-year-old kid. Now, we've prepped them. We try to prep them like college. You're going to, it's competition. Somebody's coming for your job. You got to look at who's in the next class, who's coming in, who's wanting playing time from you. Well, now you've added a whole nother layer of competition to that player. And, I I love competition, but for freshmen coming into college, it could be overwhelming. I mean, it's just like, wow, I'm fighting the portal, I'm fighting the 28 class, I'm fighting the 29 class.
Mhm.
So it's a lot that it didn't used to be. So
Absolutely. And
that's probably the consequence. Yeah.
and the biggest negative that I see, and I'd love to hear your input on this with the portal, is I think what it's done, and I was on a podcast with Mike Kindre, and I think he hit it on the head, is he said, what I don't like about the portal is that, gone are the days that you just look at a kid and say, look, I'm going to break you down to build you up, because this is what's going to get you to that next level from here to there. And it's kind of like, well, I don't like that. I'm just going to go to the next school. He says, and he said, and that leads to 1 school, 2 school, 3 school. And I thought it was interesting. He said, so it's almost kind of handcuffed a lot of coaches of doing what they know should be done for these athletes. And he says, and in the long run, who loses? He said, the athletes. It's not the coaches, because they can go to the portal and get a proven one. So
Exactly. Yeah, I
so
totally agree with that. And it kind of goes to what you said earlier. Like it or not, our athletes now are commodities. They're products, and it's okay to label them that. It kind of sounds a little off, but at the same time, these kids are also getting a lot in return.
absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Well, let me transition to get a little bit more from you so people know exactly who you are. What is your why? What drives you to do Georgia Impact now? You don't have a daughter playing. What's your, like, this is my why?
Well, that I thought a lot about that overnight, and I can say that probably like most of us, we got into it because of our kids. We love the sport, but all of us have an ego, and all of us have a serious competitive fire. Living vicariously, however you want to term it, we all have that drive. And what motivated me early was I wanted to build the best, be the best, get the next best player, wanted the most recognition. All of those things drove me for a long time. And when it really started to change, and when I really feel like I became a really good coach and leader, was when I had kids that had started to graduate.
Mm,
And I realized the impact that I had on them, and the relationships that I developed with them that are still to this day intact. I've seen people get married. I've seen people have babies. I've seen kids now, my '03 bunch is now about to graduate, and I'm very embedded in their lives. And that's not for everybody, but the ones, So when those relationships started to kind of prove how valuable they were to me, the other stuff kind of fell to the background a little bit. We all still have those things. We all still want to win, build the best team, have the highest kids ranked, all of
Yeah.
those good
Yeah.
things. You will hear about that, but when the relationships and the actual kids, it's kind of cliche, but so many people say, well, I do it for the kids. Well, not everybody means that, and not everybody lives that. But when you truly evolve into feeling that way in your heart, then that's when this game really takes on a whole new meaning. And that's exactly why at 58 years old with no kids and 4 grandkids that I still do this with everything I got. And that won't change, I don't think, anytime soon.
Well, I absolutely love it because what I heard in there that I hope our audience hears is you transition. I don't know if it comes with age or whatever that is, or when you have babies yourself. Like there's a lot of transitions in there. But I love what I heard because I constantly used to think I coached softball. Then I had my own kids. Then I kept coaching softball, and I realized I was trying to coach more about life and coach the person. And softball was just the vehicle that was used to show them how to deal with failure and all those different things and truly become family. And, so many of these people that get involved in it because of their kids, that's your time with your child and all that kind of stuff. But if you're going to spend more time with other people's children, then you really got to like the people that you're around and
Right.
investing in, and doing that part of it. And you end up with a family. And my contention is the softball world is so small. You're literally one conversation away from realizing that you know everybody within the softball world.
That's
And so
right.
it is one big family with a lot of crazy and a lot of fun and a lot of dynamic and a lot of things that you go, oh, that's only my uncle because he married into the family, but they're still family, and I think that's cool. Well, I think you kind of answered kind of what is your legacy and what you're leaving behind, because I do believe that you are coaching young women. And I think that's so cool. And I love the way that you think about the culture of it starting young. And it's why I would imagine most of your kids stay within your program the entire time. And it's not something that they come and go and hop around. So I love that. Okay. This is my favorite part of the session. This is just kind of the fun, rapid fire closing. I'm just going to ask you a couple questions and maybe one that comes to my mind. If there was a player out there, and it doesn't have to be one of yours, but it can be, if there was a player past or present, who would you love to coach on the field for a season right now?
I would probably, this one's close to home because it was an impact kid, and I never got it. I was around her, but never coached her, with Skylar Wallace, probably.
Ah, yes,
Um,
absolutely.
I knew enough about her to know what kind of kid she was and what kind of heart and desire and drive, but
Yeah.
I just never had her on my team or had the ability to coach her. So that would probably be my first pick.
Absolutely. Those are the kind of players that you're lucky to ever get to coach in a lifetime. So to even say that she's part of the Georgia Impact, how cool is that part of it? That's awesome. Do you have a superstition or a favorite pregame ritual that you do with your team?
Yeah, couple of one is a kind of a color thing. So if we're winning, I stay with a certain color, whatever that is. So when I pack to go to a tournament, I probably have enough clothes to cover 2 weeks worth of play. But that's because if I'm wearing black, then I'm going to wear black till we lose, and then I'll go to something else. The other one is I have to use the same pen every time I fill out the lineup. Like
That's so cool. For a
if I
season
lose,
or for a weekend?
what's that?
Do you use it for the whole summer or for the weekend?
The whole summer. And if I lose it, I'm kind of like off. I'm like nervous. I'm like, oh gosh, something bad's going to happen. If it just quits on its own, that's not a problem. But I
Okay.
have to keep up with it. And even if somebody else fills the lineup out, I have to make them use that pen. So
That is so cool. I love that. I love that. I love it. That's the thing that I'm constantly trying to teach young kids is come up with a routine and come up with superstitions because it's the best part of the game. It's the games within the games, I think, that are so cool about our sport. Okay, so I didn't write this one to you to share with you, but do you have a favorite tournament or a favorite location or a favorite place to take your Georgia Impact teams?
I would have to say there's two things. First is PGF Nationals in California.
Okay.
Love California, love the vibe, love the competition. We've always ended up there. So familiarity, all of the things you can think of, that is the ultimate favorite of
Okay.
mine. The other one is really not a tournament, but it's our week when right before the summer or at the very beginning of the summer before the tournament start. We spend a week in Florida training.
Okay.
And we get a big house and we do the whole thing, but that is probably my second favorite week of the year
That's
because
awesome.
it's just with my team and it's a lot of practice, a lot of uh video or communications at night, sessions at night, and a lot of fun in between. So those are probably my two
I love
favorite
that.
weeks of the summer.
I love that. And what's so cool is in order to do that, I would imagine you kind of have to give up a weekend of playing, but that's such a week of investment. And you know what? It's kind of a kickoff of like a spring training for your
That's
team
exactly right.
to develop a culture as well as almost a gift to the families because you almost mandate a vacation at the beginning of the grind for the parents because if you're doing all that with the kids, the parents have got a lot of downtime that can go just be parents and have a little bit of their investment feel like a vacation. So I absolutely love that
Okay.
thought process of what that is. That's fantastic. Well, let me go back to the question that you asked me to kind of table and think about it. Do you have one? And you don't have to just have one. You can have two if you'd like to. But do you have a favorite softball memory that you close your eyes at night and just go, yeah, this is it.
So I think this may be a little hard for some to understand, but every year at the end of PGF or whatever national event that teams go to, there's that day that you lose or that day that you win, whatever the case may be. But when it's over, when it's finally over, and it's that whole culmination of emotions, tears, there's always tears, there's always sadness, there's hugs, there's, reflection. Um, every season when that happens, that is probably the most emotional time that I have. So to categorize it as my favorite, it probably is, but it comes with, a lot of emotions, right?
Absolutely.
So I think it's the most, the thing the thing that means the most to me at the end of the season is when all that comes together. And
Yes.
sometimes it's on a good note, sometimes it's not on a good note, but mostly just seeing that and realizing that some of these players may not be here next year. We just spent 80 games and all this time together and it's all over,
Yeah.
so it's just maybe that's not a favorite
No,
moment.
I get that. I get that. And I think anybody that's done it definitely understands it. I think the thing that I want to thank you the most about for today is kind of the walk through the Georgia Impact organization and the whys and the how comes and the guidance that they're getting from that young age of how to not manipulate, but to really work what you're needing and what you want. And I think there's a lot of advice and nuggets in this whole thought process from the recruiting standpoint for parents. And I think what I like the most is I would like to present and in a recap, tell you that I think you have provided today a great outline for people to say what should I be looking for my child in an organization, whether it's Georgia Impact. Look for the organizations that are going to, number one, develop obviously your softball skills as a player, but also as a person, and walk with them side by side with the ups and the downs and be patient to let them to grow. And then when that happens, then you do become a bigger extended family. And that's when the success happens because September 1, whether it's for the 27s, if you didn't work hard, the game knows. The
Yeah,
game knows. And
that's right.
September 1 might not be as big as what you want it to be. You got to do some self-reflection. How much work did I do on it?
That's
And it
right.
doesn't mean like big is it power forward, because my contention is if you're a softball player out there and you want to play college softball and you work, you will play college softball. I can't tell you where, I can't tell you at what level, but there isn't anybody that can't find a home within softball if you continue to work. And I always remind them, don't forget, somebody cut Michael Jordan. Never forget that. Somebody cut Michael Jordan. And what does he always talk about? I put my nose down and grinded. And I always told my players, I never want to be the coach that cut Michael Jordan. So if you're working, I will match your effort. I can't
100%.
you playing time. I can't tell you that's going to give you your dream school, but I can tell you it will open doors for you. So is there anything else that you could think you'd like to add?
Well, no, I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm glad I got an opportunity to talk about myself a little bit in the Georgia Impact. Um, I think my parting shot would be for parents and players. Uh, have realistic expectations, trust somebody, find somebody that has some recognition, some ability to trust, and stay out of the way. I mean, I don't mean that as harshly as it sounds, but you got to trust somebody, and anything that you do in between is maybe counterproductive to what's happening. And also, we talk about Power Four, we talk about all of these, Oklahoma and all these big schools. What you said a second ago is very important. When you're in that program, no matter what level it is, that's your life. That's what you dreamed about. It doesn't. Once the signing is over and the Facebook post is over and your parents have bought all the gear, that's all over with within seconds. Um, so whatever level you're playing at, if you're having fun and you're playing, it doesn't really matter anymore.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I tell everybody September 1, your signing date are all like your wedding. It's the beginning of a lot of work, a lot of tears, a lot of heartache, a lot of growth. Yes. At the end of it, you should be sliding in at home saying, what a heck of a ride.
That's exactly right. That's beautiful.
Thank you so much for your time, Chad. I appreciate you.
All right. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Voices from the Field, presented by Extra Innings Softball. Don't forget to follow us on social media, subscribe to us on Spotify, and visit our website at extrainningssoftball.com for more stories, rankings, and updates from around the game. We'll see you guys next week.